Well, hello.
Hey,
Just checking our volume here. Everything's good.
make sure we're
Okay,
not
so
screaming at each other.
this is going to be an episode.
hmm We could be here till tomorrow. It'd
I
be very bad.
mean, just behind the scenes, I was like, Rachel, how long do you have? And she's like, I have 2 hours and 45 minutes. Guys, I don't think we're going to be here for 2 hours and 45 minutes, but you just never know.
You
So
never know. You never know.
exactly. So, oh, Russell's in the chat. Here we
Hey,
go.
Russell. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you for showing up, Russell. See, you start bringing up vampires, and I don't know. I feel like
hmm
it kind of brings all the people to the yard. I couldn't even say brings all the boys to the yard because there's probably some Patrick's here. What's up, Patrick?
Hello.
With his typical sharks. All right, so we got a couple people in the chat. We wanted to just say Rachel and I together have come up with 10 of our sexiest vampires. Now, this doesn't mean that these are the only ones we find sexy because, come on, there's just a little too much sexy for just us.
Mhm.
But we did try to find a good balance. There's 5 female, 5 male, just to keep everything nice and equal. Because we're equal rights on our vampires.
Absolutely.
And I
Oh, Eric's here.
Aw, hello, Eric. Can't stay long, but had to show up for a little bit of the undead sexiness. Yes. There we go.
Eric knows what's up.
That's
Uh-huh.
what's up. Well, I think right off the bat, we have to start off with one that I think everyone has probably seen, but maybe just fell off their radar because it's been a while. I want to say this movie came out in 2002.
Oh, look at her. I mean, okay, Queen of the Damned, not a great movie. I mean, okay, so I don't know if anyone knows this, but like in the original Vampire Lestat, Lestat has buried himself in the dirt because Louis and Claudia set him on fire and he needs to kind of recuperate, and he gets woken by rock music. Now the novel is set in the 80s. You can imagine Lestat hearing 80s rock music and going, hell yeah. But setting this in the early 2000s and having him wake up to like wannabe emo like rock, it's like, dude, like what woke you up? And the craziest thing is Akasha is then woken by his music, and his music isn't even that great. But look, all things aside, this movie, I actually recently found out this movie was actually made as an FU to Anne Rice. Apparently, there was this contract that said if a sequel wasn't made to Interview with the Vampire by the year 2000 and whatever, the rights would then default back to Anne Rice. So they made this shitty little movie just so that she wouldn't get the rights back and couldn't shop around anymore. So that's how we got this travesty. However, Alia, may she rest in peace, she understood the assignment. She came in here and said, I don't care if I am on some crappy little set with Stuart Townsend pretending that he could even, you know, measure up to Tom Cruise's, socks. And Aaliyah came in and said, no, man, I am going to be the sexiest freaking vampire you've ever seen. Every time I see her in this movie, the word undulating comes to mind. The way she moves her body and the metal plates that she's got on and the headdress. And this woman gives no F's as well. Like, she's here to just cause havoc. She's eating people and burning people. And yes, Eric Lestat, definitely a downgrade. I mean, look, Stuart Townsend is a fine enough actor, but after you've had Tom Cruise, and his fantastic performance, it just doesn't level up. But no, Akasha, when Barb suggested doing this list, Akasha was honestly one of the first vampires to come to mind because her whole look, her whole persona, like I said, she's the only one who like really understood the assignment, and she kind of whoa, jump scare. Sorry, Azula jump scare. That's
We weren't
that's
expecting
my
this.
cat, people. She's exploring and testing boundaries. But yeah, no, this was my first pick because I mean, Aaliyah was, I mean, she was a beautiful woman, just in general. I remember when her music was very big, in the late 90s and early 2000s, and she gives it her all here. And like I said, every time she comes walking out, that shot where she's just burnt down the building and she comes walking out and all the flames are behind her, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what you want from your vampires. So that's Akasha. Love her.
Yeah, and the way she moves too, like
Mhm.
there was a little bit of a dance with I mean, like you
Yes.
said, she understood the assignment. Like, I can't even top
Mhm.
that. Now, the one that I thought would kind of be similar to Akasha would be
Oh.
Santanago Pandemonium. Now, this is a movie
Mhm.
that I think this is Eric's favorite. Is Eric, isn't this your favorite of the vampire movies? See, for a
Oh,
long time, I thought
interesting.
his favorite was Interview with a Vampire, which is mine.
Mm, yes.
This movie, you go into it thinking it's gonna be this crime film about 2 brothers, and
Mhm.
they go into this bar where it's essentially just filled with vampires, and they don't come alive until the moment where she does that dance, dances all the way up to the table with Quentin Tarantino, and then we get to see
Mhm.
this him sucking her toes. To get
Tarantino and feet, that guy needs a therapist, okay? Like, he needs to speak to someone about his foot fetish, and, yeah, that was an interesting moment.
and back when I first watched this, I didn't realize, I mean, this came out so long ago, I didn't realize that he had a thing for feet. I mean, you don't,
Yeah.
I guess you don't fully know until you start seeing his other movies, you're like, "Huh, there's a little bit of a
Yeah.
trend here."
Mhm.
But apparently she was afraid of snakes, so having
Oh,
to,
poor thing.
yes. So for her having to dance with a live snake, I mean, you can't get more committed to
Mhm,
the role than
mhm.
that.
Brittany took some notes for the MTV Awards a few years
Oh,
later,
yeah.
didn't she?
You know,
But
now
this is the OG.
you have me wondering if, which came first? Did this come out before that?
This came first because this came in the '90s. Britney's performance wasn't
Okay.
until, like, the 2000s. I will never forget that. That was one of the most iconic performances. But no, I mean, it's Salma Hayek, you know? I mean, she's gorgeous. Have you seen her today? She's still gorgeous. And again, like you said, it's the dancing, it's the undulating. I mean, she's not so pretty once the vampire fangs come out, but before that, fantastic.
Absolutely, and thanks for coming around, Eric. I'm glad this was good
Thanks,
timing. We got to
Eric.
see her. I mean, she came to mind almost immediately, but when I thought her and Akasha were kinda like, if there were 2 female vampires that would team up together, it would be them
Absolutely, and
in
they
this
would rule the
alternate universe.
world. We'd all be goners, man.
But yeah, Selma Hayek, I feel like most people have seen From Dusk Till Dawn. If you are in the chat and you haven't seen it, this you need to add it to your vampire list of movies. So, there's not a
Absolutely.
whole lot to say about her, but her role, this is one movie that, can I just say, speaking of vampires, I think I touched on this a little bit with the episode I did with Eric.
Mm.
I don't absolutely love when they turn ugly, like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they make them kind of an ugly vampire.
Yes,
I much
yes.
prefer when they stay in their their human-ish state and just grow a little longer teeth. You know, that
Yeah,
I
I
love it.
understand that.
But
Yeah, I get
then
it. I
when,
remember
oh,
yeah,
no,
sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say, in this movie, they turn ugly. It kinda like Jerry Dandridge in, you know, why can't I think? Jerry Dandridge in
Which one? I'm not sure which
I know, I can't think of it.
we're having a mutual
Fright
brain
Night.
fart.
Fright
Oh,
Night.
of course, of course.
Yeah. I couldn't think for a second there, I got brain freeze. But yeah, he's another one that just kinda turns super ugly, like,
Mhm.
if I'm gonna get bit by a vampire, please let it be
A
one that
sexy vampire.
just a sexy vampire, just let his teeth just kinda go a little bit longer. That's it, I'm
I
good.
totally get it. On an aesthetic level, I totally get it. I mean, I think my favorite vamp face is actually from the Vampire Diaries because they just get the teeth and like these kind of like streaky eyes, like some like I don't know, these veins pop out. But the Buffy vs Vampires, the first time I saw a vamp face in the Buffyverse, I was like, oh my god, what is that? But I understand that like for Buffy, they're trying to show that that's like the demon coming in from like within. And like, look, I get that, but we don't need to see that. We just want to see the sexy vampires without their shirts on and their fangs. It's all good. We don't need to see the ugly stuff. So I totally get it. Like this movie's a bit of a jump scare, you know, like you're watching Salma Hayek dance around and everything's all cool. And the next thing you know, she's sprouting horns and fangs and spurting green blood and it's all a mess.
I know, it's
But,
like,
you
can
know,
you
the lead
imagine
up,
someone taking her home for the night and then just, like, turn over and see that? Like, my god.
that's a
But
Coyote Ugly night.
speaking of this is a good lead in since we were just talking about, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We
Mhm.
have to talk about
Oh,
one of your other
Darla.
choices.
I mean, look at that face card. First of all, Julie Benz is absolutely stunning. And funnily enough, she is the very first vampire we ever see on screen in Buffy. She's right in the opening scene. And at that point, she was literally just female vampire number one. And then they decided to extend and explore her backstory. And we ended up with Darla, who is honestly one of my favorite characters, not just vampires. And one of my favorite things about Darla is we get olden times vampires. I love vampires in the past. Give me vampires in the 1600s, the 1800s, and especially with Darla, we get the costumes. So, the girl's got her boobs up to her chin and, she the heaving bosoms and all of those beautiful dresses that just make her look so appealing. And Darla is such a fun vampire because she is so chaotic and so evil. But then she has this bond with Angel, like when he doesn't have a soul with Angelus. And it's like they were together for like 150 years. Like that's commitment. Like I love Buffy and Angel as a pairing, but sometimes I'm like, girl, you were with him for like 2 years. Darla was with him for a century and a half. Like you can't touch that. But no, I mean, like I said, Julie Benz, just the face card alone, you could just stare at. But then they put her in those corsets and they lace her up, and she's, like there's this great scene where she and Angel are like stuck in a barn, and she's like lying back on the straw, like, oh, let's be animals. And I'm like, oh, can I jump into the TV screen and join you? Because she's so very appealing. So yeah, that was my next pick. I mean, just look at her. You could just stare at that face all day. And yes, the vamp face, not particularly attractive, but I think of all the actors in Buffy, if any of them look good in the vamp face, it's Julie Benz. Her prettiness manages to come through even when she's in full vamp face. So yeah, this one, I love Darla. She's just so great.
I agree. Oh
Yes,
yeah,
Russell, she was in Dexter.
yeah, she was.
Rita.
And with you putting her on the list and me going back and getting sucked into that wormhole of YouTube, just seeing some of the old, because I had messaged Rachel and I said, hey, we should at some point talk about the human vampire, or I'm sorry, the human slash vampire relationships that are out there because there's many. And
Mhm.
I brought up Spike and Buffy, and she was like, oh, we should probably discuss this because she's not team Buffy and Spike. But
No,
were
I've
you
never been
probably
team
were
Buffy.
you probably were team Buffy and Drusilla
Mm,
because they were
Spike and
really,
Drusilla. Oh,
really
Spike and
good evil.
Drusilla. They were when they first came in, and they were kinda like Sid and Nancy, of the Buffy world, and they were so fun. Drusilla is another vampire that I absolutely love, but I didn't put her on this list because Drusilla's appeal is more she's much more threatening, and she's more kind of that she comes across as very, weak and out of it and kind of crazy. So it's hard to find her sexy when she's, spouting all sorts of weirdness. But her and Spike, when they first turned up in Buffy, they were such a game changer. I remember that. And they were the first vampires to show affection. And I really loved like that they had that love between them. And yeah, that was beautiful. But no, I have issues with Spike. And I actually said to Barb when she messaged me, I was like, anytime I meet a new Buffy fan, I'm always like, how long until they realize that I hate the most loved ship in the show? Like it's always like, yes, a new Buffy fan, but oh, they're gonna find out how much I don't like Buffy.
And here I remember calling a friend and saying, "Oh my god, the moment when the building was starting to fall around them, I know that at that moment you were probably thinking, please no. Please no."
It It's interesting because I kind of watched Buffy all out of order. It was really odd
Did you?
because, like,
Okay.
TV here in Australia is a bit odd, and I wasn't allowed to watch certain things, so I kind of watched the seasons, like, I watched a few seasons here and a few seasons here, and I didn't actually sit down and watch the season all the way through until I was much older. Yes, good, Russell, everyone should be a fan of Buffy. Um, so I knew about the Spike and Buffy relationship, and I knew that it was coming, and for me, and we probably shouldn't get too much into this because this could turn into a whole other conversation. It's more about like just the way their relationship was written in season 6 and then the lack of fallout in season 7. But if we ever do a discussion on human vampire relationships, yes, we will definitely get into Spuffy and why there are certain human vampire relationships that I can do, but just not that one. Not that
Oh, I
one.
mean, it had its fair game of the toxic levels of toxicity.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was quite a bit there, quite a bit to unpack. So, uh,
definitely a conversation to have another day. So look forward to that, guys.
yes. Well, the next one that I have on my list, this was, I was telling Rachel that this was kind of hard because there's three top guys. I mean,
Mhm.
you have Lestat and you have Louis and then you have Armand, but I feel like Armand had this air of sexiness to him and confidence to him. Sure, Lestat did have this confidence and just snobbiness to him that I love, but Armand just comes right out and kind of says to Louis, like, I want you to be, paired up with me. And back when this first came out, I didn't know that he wanted to be in a relationship with Louis. I just thought that he thought he could take over the world with by his side. I was so naive back then. I mean,
Oh, I hear you. There are some movies that but again, like, we grew up in a different time. We didn't have, like, the internet, we didn't have all these fangirls looking for, like, queer subtext everywhere. But no, there's a lot of movies that you watch when you're older and you're like, "How did I not realize how gay this movie was?" Like, you get up and you watch Interview with the Vampire when you're older, it's like we were talking about behind the scenes, like, the whole Lestat baby trapping Louis. You don't really clue into that until you get older, and then you're like, "Oh, hang on a second. No, that's exactly what he did. Louis was about to leave him, and he's like, 'Here, let's have a baby.'" And that was Claudia. But I'm with you with Armand. I mean, again, Antonio Banderas, especially in the 90s when he was like at his peak, absolutely beautiful. And I love that scene. It just reminds you that we're in the 90s though, but there's that scene where he cups Brad Pitt's face and they
oh,
get like so close, but then they don't actually kiss. It's
I
like,
really
come
I
on.
really thought they would because
Mhm.
they kind of teased it. And Brad Pitt was the one that was kind of, as he was talking to him, he was talking so close to him on purpose. But then
Mhm.
again, there was this whole underlying relationship with him and Lestat that was behind the scenes that they just didn't bring it on the screen.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Have
they
you
just
watched
didn't make it so in everyone's face, which I guess is good in a way because you've got
Yeah.
some men that watch that probably wouldn't have wanted to see that. So it kind
Yeah.
of appealed to all the viewers, don't you think?
Definitely. Um, I was gonna ask you if you've checked out the TV series. Have you checked out the TV series adaptation of Interview with the Vampire?
I have not. Is that one that you'd recommend?
No.
No.
Okay, it really just depends. So it's I was recently watching a YouTuber that I love who does comparisons between book and film adaptations, and he said something that is very true. Basically, the interview series, it's definitely written by people who love the source material. You can tell that. Like, they know the characters, they know the source material, but it's almost like a fan fiction version. Like, it's their version of what
Oh,
these characters would do. So, like,
okay.
making Louis a black man in 1920s Louisiana, like, that definitely then affects the story. And like the first of a season is like him struggling to accept that part of himself, and as a vampire, what does that mean for him to now be a black man and have this power over white people, things like that. But what I don't
Oh,
like about it is Claudia, they age up, which just completely ruins her storyline and like the themes that surround
really?
her character. So yeah, so now instead of being a child, she's a teenager and she looks like she's an adult. So we really lose
Oh,
that whole, she's eternally stuck in a girl's body. And they change, so they keep the essence of the story, but it's very, very different. And they
okay.
make Lestat outright abusive, and I don't like that because I'm like, with vampires, you have all the toxicity built into their nature. The abuse comes from, oh, I made you, you have this eternal creature, we're going to drink each other's blood, we're going to go out and murder people, we're toxic because we're so codependent. But in the show, it comes across more like a human relationship. It feels like a human abusive relationship, and I for me that didn't work. That being said, the guy who plays Lestat, he's an Indian actor, not Indian, why did I say Indian, Australian actor. That's me getting my own heritage
Yeah,
mixed
wait a
up and
minute.
everything. Yeah, he's an Australian actor and he is really, really good. Like, I remember thinking, is anyone going to be able to be as good as Tom Cruise? But this guy is really good. Like, his Lestat's fantastic. But no, if you are a purist of the book and the original movie and you don't want to see any changes, definitely don't check the series out. It's wild the changes they make in the series.
I'm
Absolutely
glad
insane.
that you gave me a heads up on that because it has been sitting in on a list for me of things to check out eventually, but it just keeps getting bumped lower to the bottom. So now I know why. Maybe I just had this.
Armand is like such a different character in the series.
Really?
He's like this Machiavellian type, like has been like pulling Louis strings for like literally like 5 decades. Like you in season 2, you find out all of this stuff about Armand that it's like, whoa, okay, we're making Armand like the bad guy in this series. So much prefer
Oh,
Antonio Banderas. I know, I
yeah.
know.
Because even though Armand in Interview with the Vampire, the movie, he doesn't have a lot of screen time, it still was impactful, I felt, because
Oh yeah.
he just kind of had, oh, it's Antonio Banderas. So when he talks with that accent, you're already like, yes. You have my
100%. Man,
attention.
I would be in so much trouble around any of these vampires because they'd be like, "Be mine," and I'd be like, "Okay, yes, please." It's like my thing with Candyman. You know, I watch Candyman, and Tony Todd's like, "Be my victim," and I'm like, "Yes, please." Me
Right?
over here, but yeah,
Voice like
it has
butter.
that same feel. That whole kind of dark, seductive, and I mean, look at Antonio Banderas, man. If he came down like cupping my face and putting his face like right next to mine the way he does with Brad Pitt, I'd absolutely be a goner.
Absolutely. And, in a show like True Blood, how they would do the glamoring. You said you saw at least the first season, so the glamoring,
I
you'd
did
be
see a
like,
bit.
"Yeah,
Yeah.
no glamoring needed. No,
No,
not
no,
necessary."
no, we're fine. Yep.
So the next one
Absolutely.
up.
Oh, Catherine, my beloved. Oh, when okay, so I will be honest. The Vampire Diaries, I was a little bit snobby about this show for a while. My sister used to love it, and I'd be like, ugh, Vampire Diaries, whatever. It's just teenage CW drama. But then I finally watched it, and I got so sucked into it. And Nina Dobrev was just amazing. The way she could play Catherine and Elena and just be completely different. But Catherine was the first character I fell in love with on the Vampire Diaries. She is so evil and so self-serving. And I think Nina's attitude when she plays her is so appealing. I remember reading a quote from Paul Wesley, who plays Stefan, and he was saying the way that Nina walks, he was talking about the way that Nina walks when she's Catherine. And he was like, Nina as Catherine, like she's walking through jello. And I was like, that is so perfect because she does. She has that really slow swagger. And I love that when Nina goes between Elena and Catherine, you can always tell which is which. She's so good. She has a completely different air for both. But I mean, look at her. First of all, the face, gorgeous. And then you get the attitude on top of that. And like I said, Catherine is one of those characters that, like, she's so evil. She screws over so many people, but you just can't help but love her because she does it with such style, man. You know, she's always 10 steps ahead. She's always plans for every, worst possible outcome. And then the way she plays with the two Salvatore brothers, it was like when I first started watching the Vampire Diaries, I found her connection with the Salvatores so much more interesting than Elena's because, they were these innocent, young men in 1860s America, and in comes this older vampire to just like wreck their entire lives. She's fantastic. So I was really sad when she left, and I recently found out that they refused to pay Nina more for even though she was playing two roles. They would not. They wanted, apparently the producers went to like the studio and said, you need to pay Nina more. You need, because she's playing two roles. And their response was, okay, you need to kill off Catherine. We're not going to pay her more. So that's why Catherine was killed off in season 5, even though oh god, spoilers, sorry people,
Well,
massive spoilers. But yeah, so it's a real pity. But no, Catherine Pierce, oh, I mean, just look at her. You got some great photos for this, Barb, because I just want to sit and just stare at the face card.
well, thank you for that, because I was trying to find some that would really stand out, because like for Darla, there were a few that I could have chosen, but I was like, oh, but Darla in this like Renaissance kind of
Mhm.
getup was just perfect. But one thing I wanted to say is Vampire Diaries versus the originals, and for anyone watching this or listening later that hasn't heard of the originals, that came after the Vampire Diaries. I had heard of the Vampire Diaries. I think I had watched like an episode or two, and it just couldn't grab me. But my cousin had told me, you should try at least to watch the originals. I think you would maybe like it. And so I did, and I got hooked to that for I think 2 seasons, 2 or 3 seasons. And I really liked that, I preferred it. I think because like you said, it's like this is more it's geared towards young adults, whereas the originals, it could be anyone watching it.
Yeah, definitely. Mm.
So, there, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but it's definitely if you've tried Vampire Diaries and it wasn't for you, there's still more to be found in the originals, and it does show some of the doesn't it have a little bit of a crossover too with
Yes,
some of
there's
the
definitely
characters?
some crossover. We definitely
Yeah.
see some characters crossover. I know Stefan turns up for a couple of episodes and then they go back to Mystic Falls in another episode. But it's one of those shows that you don't have to have watched the Vampire Diaries to watch the originals. They give you all the information that you need to watch the originals. And I'm with I mean, I do really like the Vampire Diaries, and I was very surprised by how much I enjoyed it. But no, the originals I much prefer, and the originals for me much more leans into the vampire side of things, which I know sounds a bit weird, but like there's a lot more about like what it means to be in a an immortal being, and what that means for your life and what that means for the people around you. And you see a lot of like the damage that they've done over the centuries that they've been alive and yeah, well, undead. And yeah, I really love the originals. But the Vampire Diaries I also think is just really fun. And they're not afraid to be really bloody on the show. We get some really good vampire fights and some good neck biting scenes and stuff like that. And some of my favorite characters come from the Vampire Diaries. So, and Catherine Pierce, definitely one of them.
And I love mentioning this because you just never know who's gonna listen to this later. Please, please, if you love vampires, you need to check out Rachel's channel at Rachel Does Fandom, right? That's
Yes,
how they can
thank
find you
you.
on there? Yeah,
Yeah.
because you some of the essays you've put out are just really interesting to listen to and watch. And
Well, thank
you're
you. I
you're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
And your
Cheers.
visuals are just, the editing and everything. I've complimented you on this before, but I stand by that. Like, you do such a great job on your edits.
Stop, you're gonna make me blush. Thank you.
Oh! I just
That's so
know I
sweet.
never knew from YouTubers watching different YouTube channels in the past before I got my own channel, I didn't realize how much work went into it. So
It's
now
crazy, isn't
it's
it? When
it's
you
a
when you
lot.
start your own channel, mhm, and you
It's a
realize how
lot.
much effort it takes, and you just kind of it makes you appreciate, when you watch other video essays and stuff, you're like, "Oh, yeah, the effort it would have taken to make this." But thank you for that shout
You're
out, that was
you're
lovely.
welcome, and I just have I have such quite an appreciation for that, and to see yours, how seamless they are, and with the voiceover and everything, so I just yeah, it keeps my interest, and I just yeah, I
Thank
love it.
you.
You're welcome. The
So
next
sweet.
one is
Mhm.
and you said okay, so Rachel only watched, like, 1 season of this, which kinda makes me sad because I would love to just talk about Eric Northman in depth, but True Blood is a sassy, sexy vampire TV show that aired on HBO. You can still find it, I believe, on HBO. And I wanna say 6 or 7 seasons of this. Eric didn't show up until I wanna say, like, 4 episodes into the 1st season. And he had the long hair like this, which I think by season 2 or ish, he cuts the hair down to I almost had this picture alongside of his short hair picture, who my friend Paula, if she ends up watching this, my friend Paula did not care for the long hair. She did not care for that at all. So she was glad when he cut it. But yeah, with or without the long hair, this is a sexy, sexy vampire. And he just there's a season where there's witches. It's the whole this is why I really think you should go back and maybe give it another go because there's a season, either season 3 or season 4 where there's witches and he loses his memory. He doesn't know who he is. And so he's not as vindictive and just self-serving because he's like this innocent Eric Northman at that point. And uh I want to say we find out at some point Sookie has to like protect him and keeps him in the house. So sorry for the spoilers, but he ends up falling in love with Sookie. And and Bill, I think, is missing on some kind of whatever he's doing. But I loved this storyline. This made me appreciate him more as a vampire because this innocence comes out, and then he gets protective of her too, and he's almost like a baby vampire because he doesn't realize who he is. Yeah, it's just I love it. I love Eric Northman in True Blood series. And if it's a vampire series that you've seen before in the list of things to watch and you just didn't go for it, like Rachel said, there's a lot of like Southern accent. If you're not big on Southern accents, she couldn't get past it. Right? That was, oh, your audio.
Sorry, am I back?
Yep,
Is
you're
it
back.
okay now? Okay. My audio was like, "Oh, no, I hear the Southern accent, I'm turning off." No more.
Well, it's hard for some people to, I wonder with you being Australian too, the different accents, I wonder if that's kind of hard for you too, picking up
Look,
on
I
that.
I love all types of different accents, and in general, the American accent, fine with it, but no, there's something about the really Southern accents that just, oh, it just grates on my ears, and it's like, look, I'm gonna admit something here. I am a little bit of a prude when it comes to media, so all of these sex scenes in this show, it was like, "Oh my god, enough already. I've seen enough tits, I've seen enough ass, I'm done." And, well, Barb and I were talking behind the scenes, but I'll tell the story again because it is a funny one. I was watching True Blood, so I did actually watch the first season, and there is a scene where Eric crawls out of a grave butt naked. Suki's just like dug him up, and they start having sex on the grave. And I'm like, girl, there is dirt getting everywhere that you don't want it. Get him
Oh,
home,
this is
get in the
Bill.
shower.
She's talking about
Sorry,
Bill, not
yeah.
Eric. Yep.
Yeah, sorry, Bill. Yes, but I do know obviously about the whole Bill versus Eric. I mean, it was very much again, it feels again like a repeat of like the Angel versus Spike. You can see it. There's always the good vampire and the bad vampire. And I know that
Always.
Eric is originally supposed to be like the bad vampire. Look, I love the long I love long hair. I always have loved long hair on dudes. It's just a thing I have. I think it goes with my 70s fetish. So this look is working. And I remember I did find Eric a more interesting character than Bill, and I can definitely appreciate, you know, the aesthetic and everything. I think I remember one of the few characters that I did get attached to was I really did like Pam, who I think is like sired by Eric or something.
She
Pam
is.
just seems awesome. Like she has no left to give for like anyone, and she's just so funny. But no, True Blood, it was a little too intense with the sex for me. And again, I find with vampire fiction in particular, I'm like, you don't need all of these sex scenes because the vampirism is the metaphor for sex, like the biting and the seduction, like that's the sex. Like I always say, my favorite sex scene is not actually a sex scene. It's Angel biting Buffy in the season 3 finale because it's filmed like a sex scene while he's drinking from her. She actually has like a full-blown orgasm and she like breaks a table. This show was a little too much for me. It was just like my prudish self was like, okay, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm too much of a prude for this movie. But that's just a personal thing that I have with media. I get a bit uncomfy when it comes to
Well,
all of the
you just
nudity.
you just like there to be a little more modesty with your vampires. That's
Really,
okay.
yes. It's like, look, I like a little bit of boob, you know, when Darla's heaving and everything. I don't need to see the full picture, okay? Just give me the previews.
Definitely, and I love that the next one that we have coming up was from your list, and I told you behind the scenes, I love that you picked this because I didn't know who this was, so it made me go look into YouTube to find out who is Carmilla.
Broody, we call her the broody gay vampire, Carmilla Karnstein. Oh, it's okay. So this web series came out in 2014. It is based off a novella that was actually written. The novella Carmilla actually predates Dracula as far as vampire fiction goes, and the original novella, unfortunately, is extremely homophobic. I mean, it was written in the 1850s, and in the original novella, Carmilla is this evil vampire who's been stalking like the protagonist Laura since she was a child, and it's very much like a lesbians are bad and the vampirism, the lesbian vampire is going to kill you and seduce you and your life will be ruined. So obviously when they made this series they updated it. So in the web series it's filmed as like a vlog. So it starts with tiny gay Laura, who is our protagonist. That's what she's known as in the fandom. from. So tiny gay Laura has just started university, and her roommate goes missing, and she starts to investigate her missing roommate. And in the course of that, she's given a new roommate who is Carmilla Karnstein, and who they eventually find out is a vampire. And it actually becomes this really fun little mix of like Veronica Mars and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because it's all like Laura trying to figure out what's going on at her school. Like her school is like really messed up. Like there's like escaped entities, and like the library's always disappearing and reappearing and all of this. So they actually ended up doing 3 seasons of this show, and each season is about 30 episodes, and each episode is about 5 minutes. And they're just these little web series, but they ended up building this incredible world and this incredible story that actually ended up like involving gods and like demon monsters and everything, and it was all done like just in a web vlog series. But it's actually really interesting to watch. Season 1 they filmed just at someone's house. It was actually sponsored by Codex, as in the tampons. So they had a lot of fun with that, with doing the behind the scenes stuff. So the first scene was filmed in someone's house, the first season. The second season was filmed at a bed and breakfast in Canada, and by the third season they'd actually gotten enough money to build their own sets, and they made their own sets. And then they did a Kickstarter, and they actually produced a movie. And the movie was really fun because with the movie, we actually got to go into the 1800s and see Carmilla in the past. So again, that's my, old ye oldie vampire kink. But Carmilla Karnstein is such a great character because she's not your. So usually when you have vampire human relationships, the vampire wants to be good for the human. The vampire wants to change for the human. Carmilla Karnstein is not interested in any of that. She just wants Laura, and that's it. And so she actually has this really great like journey of learning to lose her apathy. But she's played by a Canadian actress called Natasha Negovanlis. Again, the face card. I could just stare at the face card all day. But Carmilla has this kind of attitude and this apathy that makes her really appealing. And at the beginning of the series, like she's constantly bringing girls home to like her and Laura's dorm room, and like hooking up in Laura's bed. And like there's this whole like really funny thing of Laura having to kick all her conquests out of the room. And they also dress her really in a really fun way. In season 1, she kept wearing these thigh highs, and by season 3 they had disappeared. And then for one episode they brought them back, and the entire fandom went nuts. They were all like, oh my god, the thigh highs are back, the thigh highs are back. So yeah, Carmilla, just so sexy, such a great attitude. But it's a web series I would highly recommend. You can find it on YouTube. Just Google Carmilla the series and it will bring it up. It's done by a channel. Oh, I can't remember the channel name, but they've got all the episodes on there. And I think the movie is available on Amazon Prime and Tubi. But anyone who loves vampire fiction, I would highly recommend Carmilla. It is hilarious. The actors they got are brilliant. And it was really, really big with the LGBTQ crowd because the main characters are queer. A lot of the supporting characters are queer, and it's obviously got a queer romance at the center of it. So Carmilla Karnstein, absolutely sexy, absolutely fantastic. And I would highly recommend everyone check out this web series.
So Russell just said it's on Tubi, which makes me happy because
Yes.
everyone has
Yes,
Tubi.
the movie is.
Yes. So that'll be good. I am not. I feel like I have to be in the mood to go into a whole series again, but
I
I will
understand
definitely
that.
check
Yep.
out the movie. So thank you for that.
No
So
worries.
the next one up, Frank Langella. I took it old school with Frank Langella because I just rewatched this as an adult a couple months back, and I was like, damn, I didn't realize that he was this sexy because I saw it so many years back when I was a kid. It's probably one of those movies that my mom was watching it, and I just happened to be walking in and out of the room and catching some of it. But he has this way, like when he's looking at a woman, his eyes are just. Remember how I was talking about glamoring? It almost seems like that with him. When he's looking at a woman, he just has her completely under his spell. And this is a movie that I'm going to actually go back to, I think, again. And it's from, I want to say it's from it is 70s. It's like late 70s, the gothic romance wave that was going on back then. Is this one that you've seen?
No, I actually haven't seen this Dracula. I've seen Christopher Lee, I've seen Bela Lugosi, obviously, and my favorite is Gary Oldman. But I haven't actually seen this one. But you're making me very interested because yeah, this photo, yeah, this is doing things for me. We definitely check this out. I mean,
Some of
again,
this
it's like the hair and the coat and the like you said, the gaze, you know?
well, if I could have gone a little lower on the picture, he has the shirt open quite a bit, so it's just I don't know. It's just it's a look, okay? It's a look,
Definitely.
and
Mhm.
he specifically didn't wanna wear the teeth because he wanted it to be more this natural kind of look, just where he has a
Mm.
woman under his spell kinda thing, and just looking for love. But I don't know, I really love this one, and I feel like there's just something about 70s horror just in general, like Amityville Horror, the original, people do kinda dog on it, like, they prefer the one that came out later,
Ooh,
remake,
no.
which the remake is fine, but there's something about that 70s well, we've got 1978 Halloween, we've got the 1970 I wanna say 1979 Amityville. There is something about the 70s. Each decade
Oh,
has
70s horror is great.
yes.
Mhm.
So,
Fantastic.
I don't have a lot to say about him as Dracula, but I feel like it's one that I cannot recommend highly enough. It's very romantic.
Definitely have to go watch this then.
Yeah, because you have romance type
Mhm.
vampire movies, then you have the really scary type of horror, just heavy on the horror, and this one's very much
Yes.
romantic, the romance
Mm.
side of it, so
Yes, I prefer that too, which I know it's not true to the Dracula story, but I don't give a crap. I remember, like, when I watched the 1992 Dracula with Gary Oldman, and it's all, "I've crossed oceans of time to find
Oh,
you." It's like, "Oh, yes, please give me that."
yes,
Like, I am so down for that sort of talk. It's
and
so great.
this is not on my list, but, let me just say, in the movie n you saw Nosferatu, right? The
Oh,
new
yeah.
one, the
Uh-huh.
Eggers version? Okay,
Mhm.
can we just I'm just gonna segue for just a second and say, he was not physically sexy,
But
but
he
that
was attractive.
yes, there was
Uh-huh.
something about s I don't know, those
I
Skarsgård brothers
No,
know
I
how to
know
do
what you
it.
mean. That that Nosferatu, it had this visceral, oh, I don't know how to describe it, but, like, when even when he's with, like, the husband, that scene where he's feeding on the husband and they're, like, floating and, like, Nick Holt is, like,
Yeah,
going into a coma. It's so sexy. They're and I think that's why I've always loved vampires as, like, supernatural creatures. They're, like, one of the few supernatural creatures where they can be so, so sexy. Like, you're never going to see a sexy zombie, or a sexy werewolf, really. But vampires and it's part of their whole shtick, isn't it? It's the seduction, it's the thrall, it's the sneaking into your bedroom and watching you while you sleep, which is really, really creepy. But in vampire world, this is the norm, and that's what you want from this kind of romance. The dark romance that you get with vampires can be so, so appealing. So I even though it's not, like, true to the source material, I do love whenever they turn Dracula into a love story. I'm like, "Yes, Mina Harker, swoon, swoon for Dracula."
and I really was this close to adding him to the list, but I thought people just aren't ready for that because
No.
they're just not ready for that because people think of sexiness as more of a look,
An
and it's not a
aesthetic,
look.
like a
Some
physical aesthetic,
it's yeah,
yes.
it's not just aesthetic, someone with a aesthetically pleasing face. It's about confidence, it's about how you work a room. I mean, this guy, Frank Langella as Dracula, can work a room. In fact, he's
Mhm.
after someone who is already basically taken, and the dude is, like, looking at Dracula like, "Excuse me, that's my woman." And he
Yep.
and they just don't care, you know? But
That's so good.
yeah, it's so the next one up is on your another one from your list, and I can't wait for you to talk about this one, Marcel.
Oh, Marcel Gerard. Again, the face card, just look at him. He's beautiful. But again, this is so Marcel is from the originals. He is Klaus's adopted son who then, like, gets turned into a vampire. It's a whole thing, but I love their relationship. But the first time we meet Marcel, I was talking to Bob about this behind the scenes, is in the Vampire Diaries, and he's in New Orleans and he's doing karaoke and he is freaking hot, man. Like, this guy has charisma. He's got presence. But I want to talk about what I love about Marcel is so with vampires, I love a broody vampire. I love my Louis. I love my Angels. You know, I love my Stefan Salvatores. I love the broody vampires. But I also love a vampire who loves being a vampire. And Marcel Gerard is one of those. Like him in the originals, he is such a good vampire. Like I know that sounds really weird, but he is. Like he knows how to feed without killing. He knows how to draw crowds to him. He's very charismatic. You know, he has this whole like bunch of loyal followers that follow him because of his charisma and because of his you know, his authority and his leadership. And I just he's also like he can be really dark at times because he is Klaus Michelson's son. So of course he's going to have that darkness to him. And so Marcel is one of those characters that like he's sexy because he's a vampire. Like it's the vampirism that really adds to his appeal and adds to his sexiness. And he gets a great storyline like all through the originals. And him and Klaus, again, if we ever talk about like human vampire relationships or even just vampire relationships, his bond with Klaus is just one of the most fascinating things on the originals. The way that he, you know, that Klaus took him into their family and then turned him into a vampire, and then he overtook his father. And there's actually this great scene where like Klaus is kind of, you know, taken everything from Marcel for a moment. Sorry, mild spoilers here, guys. But Marcel comes up to Klaus and he's all like, I'm going to get it back. I'm going to get all of it back. And Klaus is all like, no father would be prouder. Like, yes, my boy, go murder people, betray me, get your empire back. And it's just so great. So yeah, Marcel Gerard. So you guys probably noticed that the majority of my picks were women, but I'm sorry, the female vampires, they're so sexy. They're sometimes just so much more sexier than the guys. But I had to put it. I'm like, Rachel, you've got to be an equal opportunity sexy vampire person. Put at least one dude on your list. And I did contemplate Damon Salvatore from the Vampire Diaries, but I felt like that was just too obvious a pick. You know, everyone loves Damon. Everyone knows that Damon is really hot. Marcel, however, he deserves a little bit more love. So that's why he ended up on my list. So good.
Well, I think I had told you that Elijah was one that back when I was watching this Elijah, I just was like, "Whoo, give me the vapors."
I get that. And Elijah's got a presence, man. You know, like he's got that commanding presence that just makes you want to go, "Oh, yes, sir. Okay."
I
You
feel
know,
like he's like the most responsible vampire in the originals. It just feels like he's like,
yes.
everyone needs to listen up. You are doing this
Mhm.
wrong, and I'm gonna tell you how you could do it right. He's
Yeah.
that vampire. But Marcel just when you said Marcel and I started to think about all of the male vampires in the originals, and I was like, "No, you're right. It's Marcel." It's kind of like how I felt about Armand being like, if I
Yes,
had to pick
yes.
one of the 3, it's Armand. Same thing for
Yeah.
Marcel. So,
Mhm.
fantastic pick.
Thank you.
And
Again, that face. I mean, again, so pretty much every single pick that I have had, I could just stare at their faces all day. Like sometimes I look at some people and I'm just astounded by how gorgeous they are. And it's like, who gave you the right to be that gorgeous? What hope does that leave for the rest of us poor schlubs down here in the dirt? If you all get to be so gorgeous. And I feel that way about every single one of my picks. It's like, who gave you the right? But thank God, because now we have all these beautiful people to look at.
Rachel, did you have a hard time coming up with just 5? Did you have a hard
Oh,
time
yeah,
narrowing it down?
100%. I
Yeah.
had, like, a list of, like, 15 and was like, "Okay, Rachel, you need to pull it together." Like, as soon as you said sexy vampires, I was like, "Oh god, how am I ever gonna cap this down? That is crazy." What about you, Bob? Did you have a hard
Yes,
time?
because I had a list of honorable mentions too, like, talking about
Nice.
Elijah or talking about Spike, being because and then I started to think about it, no, Spike can't be in the list because to me, back when I was watching it, I didn't find him sexy until he had a relationship with Buffy, for me,
Okay, yep.
because it was sometimes in movies or TV, like if someone dies, for example, I'm not necessarily sad because they died, but I'm sad because of how it impacted the characters around them.
Mhm,
And so the same can be said for, did I originally think Spike was sexy? No, but
mm,
the way he is when he's with someone that he loves and cares about, that's when it turned for me.
mm.
But I couldn't put him in the 5 because I don't know, it just wasn't consistent for me with him. But what I think is funny is the last one that we're talking about is one that you and I both agree on. I mean,
Oh,
without a doubt. Vlad the
who have we got?
Impaler slash Dracula.
Yes,
Can I just say,
absolutely.
this movie came out, I hope I'm not getting the year wrong, but I wanna say it was 1992, and
Yep, it was
I
92.
was madly in love with this movie, and I had it on VHS, actually. I had it on VHS tape. I don't know whatever happened to it, but with Gary Oldman, this is probably the only movie that I ever thought he was just beautiful in.
Mhm.
And he apparently stayed in character even he's one of those must be one of those method actors because, he stayed in character through the whole filming of it, which I know some actors feel like they need to do that to kind of stay put together.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, yes to Vlad. I say yes to Vlad too. But
Mhm.
what I thought was amazing was this movie is still special to me, and it's still very much romantic. But what came along later that knocked it out of that top spot for me was in 1994, Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah, I get that. Totally get that. Mhm.
And they're both of these movies though, if I had top 2, this would make it in my top 2 because it's just so the fact that he's like, "I found you," and like that quote that you made earlier, like, "I've been
Mhm.
looking for you," kinda thing,
I've
and just
crossed oceans of time to find you. Apparently, Gary took this role partially just because he wanted to say that line. He read that line and said, "I have to say this line," and that was, like, a big factor in him taking this role.
why does that not surprise me at all?
Yeah.
And just like you were talking about face cards, I just loved this face card. I said, "I have to use this." He's
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
beautiful here.
Oh, like we were saying earlier, I love when they turn Dracula into a romance, and I think I remember reading or hearing that this was actually very heavily inspired by the Phantom of the Opera, and that makes so much sense when you've no Phantom of the Opera. I've been a Phantom of the Opera stan since I was a kid. But yeah, that whole long lost love and that yearning, like that's what vampires really get because they have centuries to do it. So the yearning and the desire and the mist and the see me now, and all of that. It just it this is what I want when I come to vampires. Like I this is why I love oldie time vampires because you get that insane dialogue that you'd never say in real life. Like imagine going up to someone in real life and literally just being like, I've crossed oceans of time to find you. It'd be like, yeah, okay, weirdo, goodbye. But you put it in, an 1800s vampire movie, and it's the sexiest freaking line anyone could ever say. And you know what though? I've got to say though, this I love this Dracula, but if there is one part of this movie that maybe could have been someone should have paid slightly more close attention to, it's Keanu Reeves and his god awful British accent. I mean, every time I watch this movie, I was like, are there no dialect coaches? Why are we letting this guy sit here say things like bloody wolves I've seen? I know where the bastard lies. It's like, come on, dude. Be better. Be better. You're Keanu Reeves. Be better. Um,
I love Keanu
this no.
Reeves as a person. I think he's
Oh
just
yeah.
just such a kind human, but he's
Mhm.
very one-dimensional, and I would not have
He is.
chosen him for this movie.
I know he was so weirdly miscast. We're gonna get a bit
Yes.
off topic here, but I remember seeing Speed and like just absolutely falling in love with Keanu from that movie. I was like, oh yeah, get me that man. Stat. He's just so beautiful. But yeah, I'm not sure who decided to cast him in this movie because it every time he opens his mouth, I'm just like, dude, no. It's like, this is on par with like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins. Hello, Mary. It's just, it's almost as bad. But no, I'm so glad this is your final pick because yeah, Gary Oldman as Dracula, he's amazing. I mean, I love a Dracula that is seductive. I don't know if you ever saw Buffy versus Dracula, which is the season 5 opener, and they actually bring Dracula into Buffy, and he doesn't have the vamp face, and he does all the things like the mist and the wolf and coming into her bedroom, through like the fog and everything. And I'm like, yes, this is what we want when we want Dracula. We want cheesy, we want foggy, we want, really stupid lines, but it works. And this is a great pick. So bravo.
Yes, thank you. I was trying to decide who should have been the very last one to talk about because it always has the most impact to me. The lasting impression on anyone that's watching. and I thought he's just so it's such a classic, you know?
Mhm.
And the fact that they have him in so many different shapes in this movie. I
Yes.
mean, he's
Mhm.
they age him up.
Yep.
He's like a wolf at one point. He's a
The
bat. He's
wolf?
a
Yeah.
prince. So
Mhm.
you're kind of getting all different forms and versions of him, and did
Mm.
not love him as an aged up vampire. No, please no. But I like this
Oh, you
version.
you didn't like the horn type things and the kimono and him just
No,
taking Jonathan Harkness's blood? That's not for you,
it's
okay.
seriously, I loved everything about the movie so much that I was like, "Okay, Keanu needs to, like, go somewhere. Like, will you just
Mhm.
forget about this woman that you love because she's
Oh, no,
taken
you spend
now."
the whole movie like, look, Jonathan Harkness is, like, a perfectly nice guy, he obviously doesn't do anything to offend anyone, but it's like, "Mina, Dracula is coming in your bedroom, okay? Let's like, when she's all like, 'Oh, I must go and marry Jonathan,' it's like, 'No! No! Why are we going to marry Jonathan? Jonathan is bad and boring and has a stupid British accent. Go marry the Count. The Count is so much better.'" Oh, no, I totally get it.
That's
It's so
Rachel
good.
just keeping it real.
Oh, did you know did you know that all of the effects in this movie are done practically? Like, everything you see, there is no green screen, there is no CGI. Everything you see, they somehow managed to do practically, which is amazing when you think about some of those effects, like his shadow, moving and, some of the shots they had with the train and the writing and everything. It was all done completely practical effects. Like, Francis Coppola, he really wanted to, like, make this production really sumptuous and really tactile and something that people would find really immersive. So every effect you see in this is done practically. And I really miss the days of practical effects. Everything's done these days with CGI and green screen. And you watch a movie like this and you just remember how good cinema used to be and how good the effects used to be and just everything about it. But yeah,
Well,
great choice.
I feel like CGI does have a place in every movie,
Definitely, definitely. Mm,
but yeah, you're right. There's purists that would be very appreciative of the fact that there's a lot of practical, and I think that directors that handle the movie are probably incredibly proud when when they can say that, hey, this was all practical effects. There was nothing that was
yeah,
CGI about it. There is still a sense of pride, I think, for the creators of movies, creators of good, really good
definitely.
cinema. So,
Mm.
but thank you for hanging out with me and talking about vampires for an hour.
Thank you for having Hey, I am always here to talk about vampires. Like, if I didn't have an appointment later on, I would be like, "Bob, let's just make this stream an all-day thing. We'll just talk about every single vampire we love." No, they are anyone who knows me knows that, like, I love vampires. I love vampire fiction, and I absolutely adore talking about just everything that it entails because I think using the vampire as, like, a metaphor for different things, there's so many different movies where you can explore these really messed up dynamics that you maybe couldn't explore in a movie with just regular humans. Like, you look at Interview with the Vampire, right? That whole movie is about this toxic love story and this hideous family dynamic that they strike up with Claudia and how messed up that is. And like I love Claudia's story, the story of this person who's aging trapped in the body of a 12-year-old who's stuck somewhere between childhood and adulthood and just things like that. And like I was saying, like on the originals, Klaus and Marcel, like that whole familial thing. I love vampire romance, I really do, but I also love vampire families and I love the effed up dynamics that you get from vampire families. And they're all like they're so messed up, they're so toxic, they're all borderline incestuous, and it's just like this great it's just a great time that you have watching them. So I would love to do a discussion one day with you on like vampire relationships, like humans
Yes.
and other vampires. That would be fantastic. And yes, love Claudia's character. I mean, Kirsten Dunst in Interview with the Vampire, just so amazing. Like it's rare to get a child to do that kind of performance and just nail it. And another fun anecdote, I remember Kirsten Dunst talking behind the scenes. I was watching something of hers, and she was saying that to play Claudia, her acting coach to make her look, she's like, she's a young character, but there are moments where you want her to look evil or you want her to look seductive, but I was a child. So she would say that her acting coach would say things to her like, okay, pretend that you've taken your brother's favorite toy and he wants to know where it is, but you know where it is and you don't want to tell him. And she'd say, and then, that would then give her an expression of looking evil. And I'm like, that is a great way to direct young actors because it keeps them safe from the subject matter, but also gives you what you need from them. So yeah, Kirsten in that movie, oh, she blew me away. And I mean, I'd only just seen her in like Little Women, and she plays such a different character between those two. So good. So like I said, the new interview series, what with Claudia's character? Oh, I was so
I don't think
angry
I
when
would
I
like
found out.
that. Yeah. And it's
Mhm,
really hard when you have a movie that's then turned into a series because you can't help but to compare. And I do feel
mhm,
like she was
exactly.
a mediator for the couple, for Louis and Lestat. I feel like she was a mediator
Mhm,
for them a lot of times too.
definitely.
And just a classic. And like when we talk about, because we were trying to think of a date, I think April would probably be the soonest that I would be able to do that. But I do think diving into, and this will give me more time also to look into more vampire films that are out there that maybe have been underrated for me that I haven't seen yet, because I've seen a lot of the blockbuster hit type vampire
Yeah.
movies like Interview with the Vampire and, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Who hasn't seen those two? But some of the other movies that you might find on Shudder even, some of the movies that have only been out for the last couple of years, maybe to find something in there where there's a couple, and kudos if we can find some that are like Louis and Lestat where you don't hear about that too much, or Carmilla, and add those into the bunch. But yeah, we'll have to think of if we want to do like 6 or 10 or whatnot, and it could be fun.
Seen the answers yet, but yes, but have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
I've only seen one episode of that. It
Oh,
was a
no, no,
long
I meant
time
the
ago.
movie, not the TV show.
Oh, okay, so I didn't realize that there was an actual movie.
Okay, so What We Do in the Shadows was originally a movie. It was written and directed by Taika Waititi, the guy who did the Thor movies and has been doing a lot of stuff in Marvel recently. And yeah, no, you should definitely watch the film because it started as a film, so it just follows this group of vampires living in a house in New Zealand, but it is the funniest film. And what I love about What We Do in the Shadows is it parodies vampires, but you can very clearly tell that the people who made it love vampires. So you get that love come through while they're making fun of it. And they make fun of some of the stuff they make fun of. You're like, oh yeah, why did I not think of this before? Like there's this fantastic scene where one of the vampires has hit an artery when he's sucking, so like the blood's flirting everywhere, and he's like, oh shit, 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 like trying to like get the blood as it spurts up everywhere, just stuff like that. So definitely check out the movie. The movie is fantastic. I highly recommend it to everyone, especially if you love vampire films, because it's such a great parody, but it's made with so much love. So definitely check that one out.
Well, there's a whole other episode, vampire comedies, something that leans heavier into
Mhm.
comedies. Like remember I was mentioning about Vamps, the girls like Sigourney Weaver's in that
No,
too?
no, I that's the one with Alicia Silverstone and,
Yes.
Kristen Ritter, right? I've seen that, not for years, but I did see that back in the day. That's kinda like Vampires meets Mean Girls, if I remember, kind of
Right,
like it
it's
kinda.
really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun,
Mm,
and they're actually really good for each other. Like
mm.
Sigourney Weaver has sired those 2 girls, like you said,
Right, it's
and
got Sigourney Weaver, what a legend.
I know, it's just so fun. I'm trying to get Eric to watch it. It's on his list. It's on Eric's watch
Hmm,
list now. As soon as I said Sigourney Weaver, that's all
watch
he needed
party.
to hear.
We might have to do a watch party. We could do the 3 of us
Oh,
could watch it together. That would be fun.
ooh, that would be fun. It's not
Mm,
hard to find a time for, because mornings work for you, and like nighttime
mhm.
here, morning there, which is better than the opposite because I'm not good with mornings.
Good to know, good to know if we ever need to do the reverse, I'll make sure that it's a nighttime for you.
Yes. I could do the vampire in life. I'm telling you this right now. I'm made for
Oh,
it.
me too. I really prefer the nighttime. Steven, my husband, like, he'll come home and find me sitting in the dark and he'll try and turn on a light. And I'm like, "No, no, no, turn on the light, it's too bright." He's like, "Oh, my little vampire." It's like, yeah, absolutely. But no, this was so much fun,
No,
and we should
appreciate it.
definitely talk vampires again. And maybe we could even do like favorite vampire fiction or something like that, and we can talk about all the shows that we love and get some new recommendations. But it's been
Yes.
really fun.
the possibilities are endless. So
Mhm.
I just want to say thank you to everyone that was in the chat hanging out with us, especially some new faces that I haven't seen in this chat before. So
Very nice.
always a good time, and definitely come back for when we do this again. I've got some other things planned for uh, some things with Eric up ahead, but oh, I forgot to mention, you and I did an episode on Scream 30 years later. That
Mhm.
one is dropping next week. So either next
Excellent.
Friday or
That was a
Sunday.
fun discussion, guys. So definitely
Yes.
check that one out.
That was a pre-record that I wish we would have done live because I feel like it could have been a lot of fun with like chat participation. But what is it? I think it's like an hour that we did, and
Mhm.
you always have a lot of really cool things to say about Scream. So that's a lot of fun. That'll be out next week. Just something to take a look at, and yeah, keep an eye out in April because we'll get together and we'll talk about more vampy things.
Excellent.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, chat.
Thank you.